I would like to call this meeting of the Greenfield Community Preservation Committee to order. Let me read the chairperson's statement. This meeting is being recorded by the Community Preservation Committee. If any other persons present are doing the same, you must notify the chairperson at this time. Seeing none, we will move on. Okay, I'm going to call the roll, because that's what I'm supposed to do. Donna.
Here.
Wisty. Here. Garth is not here. Sarah.
Here.
Peter's not here. Becky. Present. Travis.
Here.
Jack.
Here.
Okay. And we have a quorum. Is there anyone from the public who is not going to be speaking about a specific proposal who would like to speak at this time? Okay. Seeing none, we will move on. Okay. We do not have minutes from the last meeting last week. We will deal with them at the next meeting. Sarah, I thank you for even attempting to get them done this period of time. Thank you. Okay. Moving on, let's go on to our fiscal 2025 application review. And we're starting with Greenfield Public Library History Room Collection. Is there anyone here who wishes to speak to that?
See Anna.
I don't see Anna. Let's move on and we'll come back. Yeah, okay. Megan, you're up. Pioneer Valley Habitat for Humanity, the Birch Street Project.
Hi, how are you?
Fine, thank you. How you doing?
Good.
Good.
I wasn't planning on repeating the application, but I'm happy to talk about Habitat and answer any questions.
Okay.
Pioneer Valley Habitat for Humanity purchased a small building lot on Birch Street in Greenfield last year. We're planning to build a 2-bedroom, 1-story adaptable home on the lot. We're currently working on the architectural design and the pre-development planning so that we can build that home. We would appreciate the assistance of the city in the construction funds. And that commitment of the city will also allow us to then submit a local action unit application with the city to put a permanent deed restriction on the property. So when there is some local action through funding or zoning, that allows us to go through a sort of a simplified process with the state to make it a deed restricted property in perpetuity. This is the same process we followed with our Petty Plain Road project over near the fairgrounds. And we have our signed regulatory agreement for that one on the books, and construction is going well over there. We're doing flooring now, and we'll be moving on to appliances and wrapping up by this spring. So we hope the volunteers working on that project will then move over to Birch Street in Greenfield.
Great, thank you. Are there questions for Megan from anyone on the committee? I do have one that because I live close to the neighborhood. I have heard from a friend who lives very close to the property that a lot of the debris from the previous house was dumped into the foundation. And I'm wondering if that's been clarified and whether that's accurate or not. And if so, how is that going to affect what you're going to be doing?
As part of our due diligence before purchasing the property, we did a phase 1 environmental assessment and confirmed that a permit was pulled for the demolition of the house. Other than that, until we go to dig the foundation, we wouldn't know exactly what they left. But as the phase 1 environmental assessment didn't raise any concerns about things like underground oil tanks or other environmental contamination.
Great, thank you. Anyone else have a question for Megan?
I do.
Yes, ma'am.
On section 7, in case of partial CPA funding, what are the next steps? What do you mean when there will be proceeds from the sale of the home? What happens to the proceeds with respect to like funding? Does that mean you will give, X amount of money back to the CPC or, other grantors of funding?
Typically it costs more to build our homes than it does that we recover in the purchase price. So the subsidies from entities like the CPC are an important part of making our budgets work. So, I'm not is that what your question was? So we do
No,
sell the
what
homes, we
happens
don't
to
give
the-
them away for free.
Yeah, when the home is sold, what happens to the proceeds?
They go back to, they're part of our budget for how we're funding the house.
Gotcha, okay.
Any other questions? Comments?
I just had one. In the application, it says a 1 or a 2 bedroom. Is it confirmed that it's a 2 bedroom? I think you said that when you were speaking.
I did. I think it's a very small lot. It's actually a non-conforming lot that's but as long as we pull a permit this year because it was previously developed, we can build a house on it. So the footprint on which we can build is very small. But I think that we have done enough due diligence that I feel fairly confident that we can fit a 2-bedroom. But because we wanted to make it an accessible home, a 1-story home has a larger footprint than a 2-story house. So if we were having trouble fitting parking and driveway and meeting setbacks, we would consider going to a 1-bedroom.
Okay. Yeah, there's a huge need for 2-bedroom accessible units. So if you can stay that path, the local housing community will be very happy.
Great. Well, we will appreciate getting the word out about that opportunity. It's a fairly, flat lot in an existing neighborhood. And so it seems like a good spot. It's about a half mile probably to the nearest bus stop. So it's close to transportation in a Franklin County way, but
Oh, that's good. Any other questions for Megan in regard to this project? Seeing none, we can move on. We thank you, Megan, for your time and your efforts. Okay. Oh, she's outside. Okay.
Is it in the doors locked?
Do you
Or-
want me to get it? Don't be great.
Is she downstairs?
She's downstairs, yeah.
It's fine.
Oh, she's trying to go for the main.
In entrance.
Yeah, the front doors.
Yeah, right. That's right. That's right.
They must automatically close at 5.
Yeah, the front door is locked and the side door is open, so. Okay, well, we'll just wait. But now we don't have quite a quorum, so we'll wait on that. Give Anna time to breathe. So, no, I think you're up. As soon as folks get back.
Yeah, great.
We'll give Anna time to breathe. What were you going to say?
Well, I didn't think I needed to ask this of Megan, but in the pictures of the other Habitat houses, and it was so neat to see them, each one of them had a smallish building, either right to the side or right in front. What, is that just storage? Are those,
yeah, those are storage
oh,
sheds.
there you are.
Yeah, I'm still here. I didn't go anywhere. We usually build our houses on a slab, so there's
Oh.
no basement for storage, and the square footage is fairly modest, and the attic is just full of insulation. So we also don't build garages. So building an attached shed has been one of our ways to help make a covered entry, because usually we can have some sort of little landing porch in between the two and have a place for people to put things like trash cans or bicycles or lawn.
Yeah. Thanks, I just was so curious about that.
Yeah, and it makes the building a little bit more interesting since we're building a fairly simple form of a box. So-
Yeah, yeah.
Anna, we'll give you time to breathe, so. Okay, moving on. Noble Home, Graywater. Sure, come on up. Yeah, that way you can be heard, you can be heard on the speaker.
So do you want me to give a synopsis?
Just a short, very short.
Okay. So, Noble Home is planning on developing a, small housing development, in Greenfield off of Stone Farm Lane, 20 to 24 small units. And, we're seeking funding of various types to help with some of the sustainability parts of the project to make it a little more ecologically friendly. So, I'm approaching this board for funding to fund the development of a gray water treatment system. And basically what that means is collecting water from sinks, showers, laundry machines, so forth, and treating it in a more ecological manner rather than just putting it back into the sewer system or a septic system, depending which way we actually go with the water treatment. And what that does is a couple of things. By keeping additional water out of the sewer system, we can reduce the load on the treatment system itself and also reduce chances of combined sewer overflows, which are frequent when there's flooding events and so forth, which means water bypasses the treatment system and goes directly into waterways, rivers and so forth, polluting them, and et cetera, et cetera. So in a sort of a long range, I'll back up a moment. The Title V regulations in Massachusetts are sort of a little bit behind the times with these gray water systems. There's states out west that are doing a lot of this just through normal permitting. So I'm hoping this also can become either a pilot project or something that other people can look at and to bring more public awareness to gray water treatment systems, which we really need in this state. So that's sort of the crux of it.
Thank you. Thank you. Do we have questions?
Yeah, sounds very interesting. I wondered how much of the need for town sewer or septic does it eliminate? Does it eliminate the need completely for the town to be involved?
Well, I'm not totally sure because if I do end up hooking into the sewer system, I'll still be needing that for what's called black water, basically for toilet flushing. Because even though there are good biological ways of treating black water, that's definitely an uphill battle for Massachusetts on getting permitting for that. Basically, the way to do that also would be using composting toilets. But that's very expensive because Massachusetts only allows certain models that are very expensive to be used. So that's not even on the table for this project. So we will be using sewer, but depending how extensive the system is, we'll be reducing it by either between 500 and 1,000 gallons per day.
Good.
Significant.
Other questions?
Hang on, I might have got one more.
Whereabouts on Stone Farm Lane? Is it this like plateau that you see on the?
Right at the end, yeah, but it's sort of tucked
The terrain map here.
Just-
See where it's flat.
southeast of the existing neighborhood. So it's actually in the hillside.
So it abuts all the hiking trails up that way.
Yeah, I mean, it's not right on the hiking trails, but it's very close by.
Where's Stone Farm?
Guess I didn't print out the map I had.
So if you go up High Street,
Yeah, I know where it is, but where's the actual road? Oh,
this
that's
is
the
Stone
road.
Farm Lane here. Yep.
And this is where the current housing is. There's current 2 houses down.
There's Valley View Drive and
Yeah.
Sunrise Avenue, which
No,
is.
no, I meant
current-
further down
Oh, okay. Oh, right, there's two duplexes, pretty much
at the very end.
right at the end where the,
Yeah.
there's.
Yeah, there we go.
The very end. So you would be up further from that.
So the sort of the colored section is the land that I'm currently leasing. So the building I'm proposing is right in the middle of the green area. And then just south of it, the two little structures that are not colored, those are the existing duplexes.
Okay, okay.
Other questions?
Let me see.
I don't know if it would be, I don't know if it makes sense to go into this in more depth, but I think I recall Christian maybe doing a lot of trying to figure out whether like this whole sewer system thing is like allowable under the CPA, and it seems like it is. And I don't know, maybe Christian, if you could maybe refresh our memories on that.
Yeah, let me pull up the email. But the basic gist of it was that you can fund this as part of an affordable housing development. This is contributing towards that. The only important piece, obviously, and Noah has indicated this already in his application, that the entire facility would have to be 100% area median income restricted housing and below. You couldn't, for example, fund this if some of the housing was above the income restrictions. It would have to be all below the CPA level.
At or below,
At or below. Yep.
So at 100% of area median income or below.
which is 50 grand.
Closer
That's what it
to
was.
60 for a single.
And for an individual, it's
Yeah,
like
for
61.
61, and for an individual, and then it goes up,
Can't get eggs.
goes up based on the number of members of the household. And if anybody wants to see that, we can get that for you.
So you're saying that they would have to be 100% of those would be at or below?
That's certainly my hope. So that's a question I have, is what happened in the event that that's not feasible? Then whatever money I received would have to go back to the CPA.
So yeah, so before any of the units are sold / rented, however it ends up working out, before that happens, we'd put a condition on this project that would require an affordable housing restriction to be executed between you and the city. So if time comes, like you're about to sell them and you're not going to sign any affordable housing restriction for whatever reason, then you return the funds to the city.
Any other questions?
The
Comments?
application says half of the units, not 100%. Did you see that part, Christian?
What's that?
The application in section 3 says with income up to 80%, half of those will be 100%.
Well, I said half, which I was going to try to make 80%. Like half under 80% and half under 100%.
As long as 100% or less, we're within the rules of the CPA.
Did I write it correctly?
And half
Up to,
yeah.
yeah.
Any other questions? I have one before I go. I'd like to, if anybody else has any.
What, sorry, go ahead. What does it mean when it says deposited into the landscape, that the water is dumped into the landscape?
There's different ways you could do it after it's treated. So after the water can either be treated mechanically or biologically. So if it's biologically, it would go through some planting beds, potentially in a greenhouse or something. And then once it comes out, it's, I wouldn't say it's necessarily potable, but it's safe. There's nothing in there. And then it can just be used for landscaping or go into like a infiltration system, like a leach field type of thing,
Very cool.
and go back into the ground.
Part of the reason I asked, I know that area tends to be sensitive. There was a village there like 4 centuries ago of like Native American stuff. And so I would be concerned about potential damage to like the surrounding environment at large, but it
Right.
seems like it's pretty self-contained.
Yes, and it's possible, even a system that's allowed by Title V allows you to have a leach field, but it's a little higher up. It doesn't need to be so far down like a septic system, so that the water can be accessible it's within the root zone of vegetation. So the vegetation will take up this water and utilize it.
That's pretty cool.
Whereas a septic system, you're putting all the pollution below the root zone. It's going down on the ground and eventually finding its way to the river, which is bad.
Which is bad.
So, but ideally, I'd like to treat it within the greenhouse biologically, and then whatever, if there's any water that's actually left can just be used as gardening water.
That's pretty cool.
So you have a budget plan here for $18,000 for this particular piece. I'm just curious about, it's a $3 million project, right?
Right.
Isn't that what you said in the total? So are you hoping to recover costs from sales of the condo, you know, those?
Yeah, I mean, what I'm trying to do is just, cover, because I want to add additional sustainability measures to the project, which obviously adds cost. So I'm doing other things like solar hot water systems and so forth. So what I'm trying to do is just recoup some additional cost to that so that I can maintain the housing sales where I would like to. So, I mean, it's all a balancing act.
Mm.
With your sales price and the other issue is Noble Home is a for-profit business. So I don't have access to a lot of subsidies that other like nonprofits might have access to, which makes it more of a challenge to build anything affordable.
You might want to check with the state on that. At
Well,
this point, with in the Affordable Homes Act. 'Cause
Well, I haven't,
Yeah.
we
Oh,
we do
you-
have, we
okay.
actually have an earmark in the
Okay.
affordable, in the act, but whether that'll go through is,
No.
Yeah,
it's not my area of expertise,
Yeah.
but keeping my fingers crossed.
Donna,
Yeah, could you speak a little bit to the whole project in terms of your timeline and permitting, like how that's going, what's already been accomplished and what's still
Sure.
to be done?
Yeah, we're currently at the schematic design level in terms of the architectural design, and we're starting some of the site engineering currently. I think we hope to go in front of the city for site plan review, and we need a special permit from the ZBA this March or April. And if we get approvals for that, then we can get through the rest of the drawings and hopefully break ground later this summer or early fall is what I'd like. And it's probably a 2-year project to get everything built.
All right, and I'll follow up with a question that Jack had because I see that it's in the chat and he was asking also about the condo project itself. And was wondering about the perk test that was potentially supposed to be done in December or January, I guess.
Oh,
Has that been
we're a
done?
little, well, we're a little bit behind on that. We haven't done the perk tests yet. For a couple of reasons. We're not sure. We're waiting to see if we need to put in to work with the septic system, which would change the location of our perk tests. And everything just got set back once cold weather came. So we're a little behind the 8 ball and all of that.
Thank you, Donna. Thank you for the answer. Sorry, my dogs were not cooperating. It is the $3 million of the project fully funded? I just missed that other piece.
Well, I didn't speak to that yet. It's a combination of private funding and lines of credit that I have. So I mean, the funding is available. I don't have it yet, but it's there.
You should be able to, I might already have it. I don't know if you sent it, because we discussed this for other reasons, but the budget for the entire project, the CPC might want that. I don't know.
Be interested to see if you have it.
I don't know if I have it with me. You mean?
That's all right. You could send-
Not today. I'll just
Yeah.
email it to me later.
Oh, sure.
Yeah.
Well, it's in
And-
flux every day. It's changing, but yeah.
And you understand that if you if you get funds from us, then there would be a deed restriction on all of the condos that everyone who buys one would have to agree to.
Yes,
Okay.
right. I'm also under restrictions with the Valley Community Land Trust that I'm leasing property from. And the restrictions are a little different. They mandate that their properties are bought and sold for under appraised value.
Mhm.
So I don't know exactly where that sits relating to 100%, area medium income. But that's, I guess, to be seen.
Well, it would, because the AMI changes every year.
Right.
It would change in relation to who is buying it, but
Yeah.
it would always have to be at 100% or less
Right.
of the AMI at the time.
Yeah.
Okay. Any other questions, comments?
I'm a little concerned about what the condo prices are going to be. Have you spoken to a lender about what the minimum income someone would need for the level you plan on pricing the condos at?
Well, I've looked into that. I've done some calculations. So currently, well, there's 3 different sizes of condos. So right now, my projected range of sales prices are between about 150 to like 225. So 150 for like a studio type unit and 225 for it to be a small 3-bedroom. And that's about where I think the 100% AMI lands.
Other questions, comments? Go ahead.
So I think that this was at a city council meeting that I attended. And some of the neighbors
Mhm.
around had commented about, they had had numerous meetings with you, I guess,
Yes.
and were very satisfied. And then all of a sudden they were scared. Were they, but I think that, so I just want to double check. I think they were scared thinking that all of a sudden you were going to be adding more levels, more levels, more levels. Is that accurate? Because
I think, I haven't followed it completely, but I think they were concerned about some of these new zoning bylaws that were being proposed, which was going to lift a cap on buildings, but it wasn't even in this
That's right.
zoning district.
Yeah.
It was different, and I think they were
that's the feeling that I had. that it was-
confused about that.
Yeah.
Plus, and rightly so, they were concerned about this thing getting, I've always been maintaining that it's between 20 and 24 units, but they're saying, well, what's going to stop you from building 45 units? Or,
Mhm.
well, frankly, nothing, but except for my own conscience. And so,
Actually, that's not true.
I mean, the
because-
city has,
Yeah, the city has-
will have something to say.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But in theory, I mean, this is a multifamily, even though it's a non-conforming lot, multifamily lot currently. So I think the way the zoning reads is I could have several buildings of up to 24 units each. But obviously I have to go through the public hearing process and all that. So who knows what would be allowable.
Plus, if you keep it at 24, then you can be the pilot program for all of these other sustainable issues that you want to develop in there. And
Right. Yeah.
You up on a pedestal for the city of Massachusetts. Thank Noah for building such great homes.
Other questions, comments?
Sorry, I have one final one.
No, you don't have to be sorry.
I think Christian said you're going to work on a budget. I was looking at the Legacy Engineering and the Homestead Incorporated, trying to figure out what the exact use of the 18,000 is. Are you able to clarify that?
Sure, it's really to get through the design process for the gray water system. So it would be it would include a perk test, the engineering of it, and the permitting for the gray water system.
This is the $10,000.
18,000 total.
No, but your letter
Oh,
from
10
Christian, who said they would do this work for you, or some of it anyway, from Homestead Inc.
Yes,
is 10 grand.
10,000. And the other,
I'm
there's
adding
another,
mine at 7,500. That's what I'm trying to figure out. Is that 17,500? If we're adding those two parts together?
Not sure what,
So the
Because
one
they're-
homestead is 10,000 and then legacy has schematic design at 7,500. Just trying to understand
Yeah.
how exactly.
legacy.
Oh, Lacey.
Lacey.
Oh, Lacey.
Oh, Lacey, sorry.
He was adding 4,000 as an additional. So he's the, Lacey is the plumbing. I'm sorry, plumbing and HVAC engineer on the project. So his contract was saying there's an additional $4,000 for plumbing design to make the gray water system work. Is what, I don't know if I have this letter with. But that's the part I highlighted on his contract.
Got it on the screen.
Yeah, this part here. So it says, please note that the included additional expense for designing the sanitary drain and vent systems for connection to the gray water system is $4,000. So I added that $4,000 into my budget for this project.
Okay, so we've got let's go through this. The $10,000 that is in the one letter, and then there's $4,000. So we're looking at $4,000 difference in your request.
And then I put in $4,000 for my company's work to coordinate and help with,
The staffing part.
the staff.
Okay, okay.
And design, the schematic design. Homestead will do the engineering part, but I have to figure out what it is we need to make work with the community in general.
So yeah, when it would come time to actually paying you the 18,000, it would basically be copies of the paid invoices for the 10,000 and the 4,000. And then an invoice from you with like backup documentation on payroll hours or
Right.
however you'd like to do it for the 4K. And then we'd reimburse you for the 18K.
Great,
Okay,
makes sense.
okay.
Got it. Thank you. Now I'm clear.
Yeah. Thank
Any
you.
other questions?
I just have a quick question.
Sure.
So I think you said you haven't done any of the permitting yet. So this might not apply yet, but I saw that this area where you're building is in natural heritage priority habitats of rare species. So
Yes.
and you'll be discharging not sewage, but water into that area.
Mhm.
So I was just wondering if you had reached out to Natural Heritage yet, or
I
is that-
have.
yeah.
I have, but I'm also fairly confident that we'll be in the clear because in 2005, there was a approved and permitted subdivision for this property of 14 lots. And 14 lots, 28 units and 14 septic systems all throughout the property. So there were perk tests in 2005 in a number of locations. Obviously, we can't use that data for the current design. We need new perk tests, but and that was all approved by Conservation Commission and the National Heritage Group, endangered species, et cetera, et cetera. There's some plants there. Again, this is above my knowledge, but yeah, there's, I guess, some rare plants that on that whole ridge, Poet's Seat Ridge area. But they weren't concerned with 14 lots taking over the whole 32 acres. So I figure, I'm doing a very small portion, affecting a very small portion of that property. So I'm confident that we'll be okay.
Okay, thanks.
I would just like to suggest that you reach out to them because their process often takes a long time.
Yeah. Yeah, we've started
Okay,
a conversation with them, but thank you. It's
yeah.
point well taken.
Any other questions, comments? Okay, seeing none. I want to thank you very much for
Yeah.
coming.
Yeah, thank
If you can give us that full budget, that would be helpful.
Okay.
And you can just send it to Christian and he'll get it out to the rest of us.
Sounds great. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Anna, you're up.
Cookie, Anna? Cookie?
I'm good, thanks. I had a, one of the staff members, what did you call it? We had about 5 people not come to work today because of various things. So we were like a shell staff and we were all jumping around doing all these different jobs. And so one of my colleagues bought cupcakes and I can't remember what she called them. So we had these delicious little soothing cupcakes. So I'm all good on my sugar intake. In fact, I was like, oh, I kind of enjoyed that cupcake a little too much. But it made the day go really well and it was a good day. So,
Excellent.
and I'm sorry about the confusion getting in. I just assumed the side door would be open and I don't have a key.
Yeah, okay. So what we'd like you to ask you to do
Sure.
is to give us a very short statement. If there's anything new, please add that into the discussion. And anything in particular you want to emphasize.
Sure. So as you know, we have the new library and, excuse me, we have a purpose-built, climate-controlled local history room, which has brought together all of the items that the library had in storage for many years. And we are getting quite a lot of use of the collection from both people local and afar. And a lot of the materials are one of a kind and old and falling apart, as does happen with books. Spines crack, pages fall out, pages get torn, et cetera, et cetera. And so we feel that this is a really good opportunity with that beautiful space and with the interest of people coming together to look at these items, to fix them and make sure that they last in perpetuity. So that's kind of the idea. And I have been part of the board of the State Historical Records Advisory Board, SHRAB we call it, which is a state office, I guess you could call it, that provides guidance and help for state kind of unique documents, right? And so with my work with SHRAB, I know the local roving archivist who lives in East Hampton, Sarah Jane Poindexter, and I had her come take a look. And so she was very helpful in helping me determine what type of restoration do we need? How should we make sure that these documents don't get further damaged, but can be used? Of course, digitization is a great process, but that's not where we're at the moment. And a lot of people really like touching the original documents. It's largely Greenfield and Franklin County materials, so obviously relevant to our community and to the county. And so in my proposal, what I've done is I've kind of gone through the collection and guesstimated how much work needs to be done. And it's not complex restorative work. It's, like repairing torn pages, making sure the spines are intact, and mostly rehousing the most delicate items into boxes and folders so that they're not just shoved on a shelf that people just willy-nilly grab and they fall apart. Take out a box. I don't know if you've seen archival boxes, if you've ever had a chance. They're usually gray or this color. They're acid-free, they're materials that are made for housing works on paper. And they're also very expensive. So that was my idea, was to apply for the grant and see if there's some funding available to help us ensure that these items can go into the future. And so really what we're looking at is someone who's trained, in archive work. We're really lucky to have Simmons Library School at GCC now, and they also have an archives program. So we may be able to get someone who's an archivist in training, who will, kind of a win-win for everyone. But they do get paid. And so in my proposal in the budget, it's kind of the hourly wage of an archivist. And then I guesstimated how much supply of these containers and things we would need. That's it. Yeah.
You would consider asking Small Corp to work with you on? They do amazing work. with-
Is Small Corp the folks who do the
Museum glass.
museum glass?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
And other things. They're,
Maybe, I don't know if they do. There is a company called University Products, which is in Holyoke, which is the archive museum suppliers really for around the world. And they're kind of local. I don't know if they would be willing to maybe donate,
the Small Corp has always been.
but
an
maybe
incredible
I hadn't thought about,
resource
yeah,
for donations.
getting in touch with them too.
community, So.
Yeah, and this, when I went through with Sarah Jane, the roving archivist, she kind of, she took her time and looked through and she's like, I estimate about, 20 hour. So it's plus or minus. That's why I think my last item on the budget was miscellaneous, $500 to give us a little wiggle room. It could be less, could be more. I don't know, but it's not the entire collection that's falling apart. It's just certain pieces, the older pieces, the ones that tend to get used the most. And it would be, I've looked through, at least in Massachusetts, to see who else has a lot of these materials, and people don't. In fact, one library in the eastern part of the state has been getting rid of their local history room. And so we got some books that we didn't have for Greenfield, for Franklin County, from a library that was saying, we don't want other people's history, we just want our own history, which makes sense. It's a lot to oversee and manage. But not many places will have some of the items that we have. So
Okay,
that's
thank
the
you.
project.
Okay. Questions, comments? Anybody?
I guess this is more of a comment than a question, but I was just gonna point out that, when applying for these funds, it's good to be estimating on the higher end, because then, if it comes in under budget, then the money just gets returned to us, and then, we can use it in the future. So
Sure.
it's not,
Yeah.
it's not an issue, I guess, long-term for us if it works out that way. So just wanted to point that out for anyone
great.
watching.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah.
I want to say it seems like a miracle when you see these things that have been rehabilitated. That sometimes it looks like it hasn't even been ripped or whatever.
Right.
It's
I mean, they use obviously preservation friendly materials. So like rice paper is
Yeah.
very often used to repair tears, Japanese paper. So you can barely tell that something's been done, and it's very delicate work, but it's specialist work. I have done a lot of training in conservation and preservation management. I don't have time to do this.
Yeah.
But I also, I don't have as much experience, and I think it would be a good opportunity to get someone to come in, and if we can get someone who's in training, even better, to give that. I'm always about partnerships and getting opportunities.
Speaking of which.
Yeah.
This is not for this proposal, but last year, we had a request from the clerk's office around records that they have.
Records management.
Yes.
Yeah.
That they have that are in some of the,
Yep. They
that
need
condition
to, yeah,
or
they need
work.
to reach
And-
out to Shrab.
And we will not able to fund
Yeah,
that.
it's,
But I'm wondering if, whether or not we fund this, if in future years, you might consider talking with them about something for those records as well.
so Shrab actually does a lot of trainings for city clerk offices about records management and particularly historical records. And they also have they have a program where you can get a grant and someone comes in and does an evaluation of your collection and tells you what you should keep and what you shouldn't keep. And then they also have another grant which will provide money for supplies. And usually it's like what do you call it when you get an external grant and they match it, like a matching grant type thing? The kind of city has to agree to spending X amount and they will pay the same amount. So that is a wonderful resource. Shrab is, and Massachusetts is really fantastic about wanting to preserve important documents.
I'm not sure if the clerk's office knew about that.
I can reach out
So
to
it
Kathy and
might
let
be
her know.
worthwhile
Yeah.
because it's something like that
Mhm.
might, and then come,
Mhm.
if they need a match coming back to us next year, that might be something that might be useful.
The second part-time roving archivist actually lives in Greenfields. And he goes and does a lot of the assessments, and those are, once you've applied for a grant, it's pretty easy. Greenfield, you have a roving architect.
Right.
Yeah, yeah.
Another
pretty cool.
profession I knew nothing about.
Right. Actually, Massachusetts is one of the leaders in this State Historical Records Advisory Board kind of project with roving archivists. And they kind of are being copied by other states, which is kind of interesting that,
Yeah.
you know, we have a great system. So it's, and, you know, it's an old state, right? With lots of historical importance, and they want to preserve that as much as they can. So I will reach out to Kathy, and I'll reach out to the roving archivist and say, have you reached out to Greenfield
Yeah.
yet? Part of their
Great.
work is outreach.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. Are there other questions, comments?
Do visitors to the library need an appointment to view the documents? They can just walk right in?
Walk right in. Yeah. If you have been in there, if you go in the next time, look at the floor, because you'll see lots of little pieces of broken pages from books and spines and things like that. They're very fragile, and it comes out until you see little white pieces all over the floor. And, you know, we just changed our rules, so you can't do any food, drink, well, no food in the library in the main part of the library, but we've actually not letting people have drinks in there either, because that was becoming precarious, things spilling and stuff like that, so. And of course, we have the Greenfield Recorder on microfilm from, when was it, 1789 or something, through 2018, I think. And we hope maybe we can digitize those in the future. We're waiting for the state to see if they are going to do some digitization projects. But now the world is in flux, so
Yes.
who knows? If we'll find money for all this stuff.
Anyone else with a question or comment?
With all the hands touching the documents, do you expect this to be like a recurring cost with the increased
I
use?
don't think so. Yeah, I don't think that the volume is that high that people are in there like all the time, but it's certainly every time you touch something, it can pose a, potential damage. Yeah.
Yep.
Although gloves have more contaminants than hands.
I believe it.
They've actually, they've now done all these studies that white gloves actually aren't necessary. Pencils are very important, though. Can't go in with pens. I suspect not, but that's why down the road, possibly looking into digitizing is not a bad thing to do. It also allows people who are further afield, if they can't get there in person, to access digital copies. And of course, well, I was gonna say digital lasts forever. It actually doesn't, unless you keep your software up to date and, all that fun stuff. So paper actually lasts longer than many digital files. And I feel like I had something else to say, but I don't remember what it was. I forgot. So.
Any other questions, comments from the committee?
I just a thing about the digitizing. If this work is done as as in the application, and then you do decide to digitize any of this stuff, does this work? Is any of this going to need to be like undone and then redone to the books? Like any of the preservation stuff, or is
No, not typically for books. The digitization, like the cameras that they use are flatbeds, and they have they don't take apart materials.
I can actually speak to that. So
Yeah.
Working with the Museum of Our Industrial Heritage to digitize the Conservative Rebel, I actually.
Oh, that's right. That's you. I'm like, it's so familiar to me. Yes.
And so they do have,
Yes.
they just bought a nice digitizing machine, and it's
Ooh.
just this.
That's good to know.
I know.
Oh.
It's they like, oh, it was $600. It was on sale. $600. Oh, but it's basically just a flatbed with
Yeah.
a couple of arms that you can pin
Yeah.
down the pages, and it
Yeah.
has a camera with lights, and if you have a nice one, there's a fixture with the block out external
Right.
light. And it has software in it that will automatically correct to the dead pages and everything like that. And for what it's worth, it does a very good job. So if we needed like volunteer hours or whatever, you know, that's the kind of thing that I would suggest using them for. because
Right.
Especially if it relates to machining. I think Jim, I think he's probably drooling right now. He doesn't know why.
That's really funny.
But yeah,
Yeah.
so it's definitely achievable even if you have volunteers.
I was gonna say, I mean, you could, of course, go out, farm it out and go to some super duper specialist company and then you're gonna pay for that, right?
Even digitizing machines, they're not terribly expensive. You can get them
Right.
on like Newegg for a discount. You know, that could be something that
Mhm.
that a service that the library could provide with, you know,
Mhm.
limitations in the
Mhm.
future, but certainly these books in particular, if handling them becomes a problem, I think that I would be very interested to see digitization,
Mhm.
you know, grants
Absolutely.
and things
Yeah.
of that.
We also have the Digital Commonwealth, which is based out of the Boston Public Library, and they, as nonprofit organizations in Massachusetts, you can reach out to them and you can apply for digitization of materials. The only issue with that is that typically they have to be accessible to everyone. And you can either host it yourself, depending on if you have a server with enough memory, I guess that's the right word. Or they can host for you and it's accessible through the Digital Commonwealth website. And, you know, it's great. It's all about access, right? But you want to make sure that you have copyright permissions and all of that kind of stuff. But they do a lot of digitization projects for us for free. Just the wait list is kind of long.
Yeah.
But when I worked at the community college in Springfield, we had them digitize all of the yearbooks. And as a public institution, we could do that. And then they hosted it and we just had a link from the library's website and people could go in and look at and it took them about a year from when I applied to do the digitization project to when they actually did it and finished, which is actually not that long. When I got the call that they were coming to collect, I was like, oh, what? That was me a lot longer. So there are options and there are affordable options. I'm not suggesting that we digitize unless something is absolutely in such bad condition. And you don't know that until you start examining it, right? And so I think the first step, and I will say that we fell behind because of holidays and sicknesses and everything else of getting our volunteers to come in and go through and identify. That was one of the things I had put in my plan that I have.
Right.
I do have some volunteers that we just haven't been able to come together since the holidays. And identify the pieces that really need special care. So that's the next step. I was a little bit kind of also waiting to see if we get this grant. Because I don't want to pull everything out and then, stack it someplace and then we don't have time to do it. We have to delay, look for another grant, things like that. So, but I have people who are interested in help. So that's good.
Great. Other questions, comments? Seeing none.
Oh, sorry,
very
I do,
much.
I do have one question.
Travis.
Sorry, I know.
I like
Go ahead,
questions.
Jeff.
I just-
Questions are good.
This
Go
just
ahead.
popped into my head, so,
Yeah.
I guess it's kind of a question for Christian.
Hmm.
The library, would the funding work the same with like city departments? Or like
We are a city
nonprofits?
department.
So, yeah, I mean, that's what
Yeah.
I was assuming that.
Yeah.
Yep,
Um,
yeah, so basically the main difference is it's not even a grant agreement, it's a memorandum of understanding between the CPC and the library. And basically the funding is appropriated and then Anna has access to it in the city's Munis system and she can carry out the project with less restrictions.
They would have like an account number related
there'd be
to
an
that,
account
and then
number.
Just,
You can
yeah.
create your own POs,
Yeah.
basically just giving me quarterly updates.
So it'd be like materials and then the archivist.
Yep.
Have two separate accounts to make sure that we're tracking how much we're spending on the human and on the materials.
Okay. Anybody else? And I'm not saying anybody can't speak, I just want to make sure that everybody has their questions and everything taken care of. Okay, now I think I'm really seeing none. So, Anna, thank you very much for
Thank you
coming
all
in.
very much, and thank you for considering this.
Oh, yes.
We appreciate
thank you.
it.
Thank you.
And thank you for opening the door again. We have a new exhibit in the library, a local artist / photographer, so it's opening this week.
Okay,
Nice.
great.
So if you are in the library, check it out. Who is it? It's in the community meeting room, the conference room, the small room. Paul Jablon, do you know Paul?
Oh,
Jablon?
yes, yes, I did get something
Clouds
from
and,
Paul. Yep.
yeah, it's great. He just finished hanging it today, so
Yep.
it looks really good. It's really nice to have art on the walls.
Yeah. Okay,
Take care.
Christian, thank you. Christian, do you have anything in the old business area that you want to talk about?
Just one update.
Does it matter which door I go out?
The side door
Side
down
door.
where the bathrooms are. So only update from prior year projects in the last week is that as some of you recall, in your first year, you funded the Agricultural Society barn rehabilitation. They're back for round 2 now. But the condition on that first set of funding was that there'd be a historical preservation restriction placed on the cattle barns to save them in perpetuity. And so that finally is being processed, and it's going to be going before the Historical Commission for approval, probably at their next meeting, the February meeting.
Next week.
Yeah, that'd be you. And then after that, once it's received approval from the Historical Commission, it'll go before City Council for approval. And then if it's approved by City Council, everyone will sign it, and then it'll go to the State Historical Commission for their final sign off. And then it can be recorded at the Registry of Deeds. So almost at the end of the long path for that one.
Wow. Since that is the only thing we have for this meeting, our next meeting is going to be February 13th, so you've got a little time to breathe. And we will be looking at the 2 Greenfield Housing Authority applications and the Valley Housing Co-op application.
In between now and then, we'll be putting out the press release and opening the survey on February 10th, which was the plan. So.
All right. So with that, I will entertain a motion if someone wants to make one.
Motion to adjourn.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, all those we've got people on fine, so I actually have to do this way. Okay. Donna,
Yes.
Wisty,
Yes.
Sarah,
Yes.
Becky,
Yes.
Travis,
Yes.
Jack,
Yes.
and I'm a yes. Okay, it is unanimous. Thank you all very, very much. I will see you on the 13th. And enjoy the time between now and then. Thank you.